It was one of those heavy Sundays where time moves like syrup and your thoughts loop on themselves. I had no real agenda, just the slow, satisfying task of cleaning out my phone, deleting blurry photos, duplicate screenshots, and apps I hadn't opened in years. I was about to shut it down when I stumbled on something odd, a voicemail. Unheard. Tucked in an old iCloud backup I hadn't touched since 2020. The timestamp said it was from September 17, 2019. 4 years ago. The day before my brother Matt died. I almost didn't listen. I almost swiped it into oblivion, thinking it was a glitch or maybe one of those automated pharmacy reminders. But something about it gave me pause. I pressed play. The voice came through crackly but unmistakably his. Hey. I don't know if you'll hear this. I needed to tell you. I'm sorry. For all of it. I didn't know how else to say it. Silence. Then, if you ever find this, I hope it's not too late. I hope it. I don't know. I just hope you understand. Then a soft breath. Then the line cut out. I froze. My whole body tensed like I just stepped off a curb I didn't see coming. I replayed it. Again and again. Trying to dissect his tone. Was he scared? Guilty? It was so unlike him. Matt was the golden one. Confident. Quick with a joke. Always carrying the room like it weighed nothing. But in that message, he sounded unfinished. The part that haunted me most wasn't what he said. It was what he didn't. He never said my name. Not once. Not Ty. I'm sorry. Not bro. I need you to know. Just, I'm sorry, and I hope you understand. It made my stomach twist. Because it meant the message might not have been for me at all. After Matt died, his car found half submerged in the river after veering off a bend near the old train tracks. The police called it accidental. He'd been drinking, they said. There was a bottle in the passenger seat and an open road ahead. Classic case. I wanted to believe them. We all did. It was easier than wondering. Easier than digging. But this voicemail shattered that version of the truth. If he'd called someone, if he was trying to confess something, then maybe his death wasn't an accident. Maybe it wasn't even what we thought it was at all. I sat there in the dark for what felt like hours, phone in hand, heart pounding like it had something to outrun. Eventually, I opened my laptop and pulled out the only thing I'd kept from his apartment, an old shoebox of his things. It had sat in my closet for years, unopened, like a time capsule I wasn't ready to crack open. Inside were the usual things, movie ticket stubs, crumpled receipts, a few photos of us from high school, and one thing that stood out. A piece of paper. Folded. With an address scrawled across it in Matt's handwriting. No explanation. No name. Just an address in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. I pulled it out, unfolded it completely, and stared at it under the glow of my desk lamp. I didn't know what I was going to find, but I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. The voicemail wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning. The address led me to a neighborhood that felt like it had been forgotten by the city, quiet streets with cracked sidewalks, homes that leaned slightly to one side like they were tired of standing straight. It wasn't far from where Matt used to live, but I'd never been down this street before. I double-checked the number written on the folded paper. 218, Lakehurst Avenue. The house matched. Peeling blue paint, a chain-link fence, and an overgrown lawn full of dry leaves that whispered in the wind. It didn't look like much. But then again, neither had the voicemail, and that cracked something wide open. I hesitated at the gate, heart thudding. I wasn't sure what I was expecting. A familiar face? A hidden clue? Something cinematic, like in the movies. What I got was silence. I knocked once, twice. No answer. I was about to leave when a motion caught my eye, someone pulling back a curtain in the front window. A second later, the door creaked open. A woman stood there. Mid-30s, maybe older. She had that kind of face that didn't reveal anything easily calm, unreadable, and just the slightest tilt of suspicion in her brow. Can I help you? I introduced myself. My name's Tyler. I'm Matt's brother. She didn't flinch, but her grip on the door tightened just enough to notice. I think he might have known someone here, I added quickly. I found this address in his things. He left me a voicemail, right before he died. Still, she said nothing. I could hear a faint ticking sound from inside, maybe a clock or a wall-mounted fan. Then, finally, she stepped aside. Come in. The living room was small but tidy. Old furniture, a faint lemony scent of cleaning spray, and a worn photo frame turned face down on a side table. She gestured to the couch. I sat, unsure whether to speak first or wait. She perched on the edge of the armchair like she was still deciding if she'd made a mistake letting me in. I'm Renee, she said at last. Matt and I, we knew each other. I nodded slowly. Can I ask how? She stared at me for a long second, then exhaled. He was my daughter's father. It felt like someone had pulled the floor out from under me. Wait. What? I didn't tell anyone. Not even him. At first. I blinked, stunned. You mean? Matt didn't know? She shook her head. Not until the last year of his life. The silence that followed was thick and hot. I tried to gather my thoughts, but they scattered like marbles. Why didn't he tell us? Tell me. She gave me a sad smile. Maybe he wanted to. Or maybe he was scared of what it would do. Maybe he was still figuring out if he even knew how to be a father. But he loved her. Her voice cracked on that last word. She didn't cry, but she looked like she might if she let herself. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Matt had a kid? A whole life we never knew about. A voicemail full of regret that wasn't even meant for me? I rubbed a hand down my face. Why now? Why tell me this? She stood and walked to a cabinet, pulled out a small box, and returned to hand it to me. Because he wanted you to have this. Inside was a drawing, stick figures, bright crayon colors. A child's handwriting spelled out. Me and Daddy. My throat closed. I couldn't speak. Not yet. He used to visit once a week. We kept it quiet. It was what he wanted, Renee said. He said he wasn't ready to tell you, but he was going to. The week he died. I just sat there, holding the drawing, feeling like I was living someone else's life. Someone else's grief. It turned out Matt had been carrying a secret so big it split his world in two. One version of him with us, loud, golden, reckless. Another version here, quiet, unsure, trying. And now I had to live with both. The worst part? I wasn't sure which version was more real. The ride home felt like someone else was steering. I drove on autopilot, barely aware of stop signs or turns. The drawing clutched in my hand like it might explain something if I stared long enough. Me and Daddy, written in uneven, hopeful letters. A stick figure of a man holding a smaller hand under a sun drawn with 12 perfect rays. The kind of picture kids make without knowing they're illustrating an entire truth. I laid it on the passenger seat, glanced at it again. Then I pulled over and sat in silence for a long while, the car humming beneath me. I thought about all the times I called Matt selfish for leaving the way he did. I thought about the voicemail, the lack of a name, the weight in his voice. It wasn't guilt over a bad decision. It was something deeper, something Messier. When I got home, I went back into the shoebox. I needed to know if there was more. A clue I'd missed. I rifled through every scrap. Receipts, old keychains, a photo strip from some boardwalk trip we took in 2011. And tucked into the bottom, barely noticeable, was a worn napkin with a name written on it. Len. Just that. And a number, barely legible. I typed the number into my phone and hit search. No results. But something in my memory twitched. I pulled out my laptop, logged into Matt's email again, and searched the name. There, an old thread, buried under promotional junk. The subject line, rehearsal, do not forward. I clicked. 3 messages. The first was from someone named L. Harper. Matt, we're running out of time. You said you'd tell her. She deserves to know. The second, from Matt. I know. I'm trying. Just, it's harder than I thought. Give me 1 more week. And the last, dated 2 days before he died. You promised, Matt. You promised. This isn't just about you anymore. I read that last line over and over. This isn't just about you anymore. Whatever Matt had been involved in, it wasn't simple. It wasn't just a secret child. There was more. Something he was supposed to do. Someone he was supposed to tell. Someone who wasn't me. But he'd run out of time. I was no closer to understanding what had happened. Just farther down the rabbit hole. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard his voice. Not the voicemail, but his laugh. The way he used to say my name when he was about to mess with me. The memory of him throwing popcorn at my face during movie nights. It didn't match the image of the man holding a secret family together in the quiet corners of the city. Or the version being scolded by someone named Len. The next morning, I did something impulsive. I texted Renee. Do you know anyone named Len? Or L. Harper? Her response came fast. Yeah, Lenora Harper. She's... Typing bubble. Pause. She was Matt's therapist. I stared at the screen. Wait, therapist? I didn't even know he was in therapy. Renee added. He saw her weekly. Said she helped him process everything. You should talk to her. She knows a lot. Maybe more than I do. I asked for the number. Renee sent it without hesitation. I saved it to my contacts, stared at it for a few minutes, then called. A voice answered on the second ring, calm, clear, professional. This is Lenora. I swallowed. Hi, my name's Tyler. I'm Matt Collins' brother. Silence. I found some emails. He mentioned you. I just have questions. There was a long pause. Then, I was wondering when you'd call. That shook me. Can we meet? I asked. Yes, she said without hesitation. Tomorrow. My office. 11 a.m. As I ended the call, one thought kept echoing. Matt had left behind pieces. And whether he meant for me to or not, I was the one picking them up now. And I wasn't ready for what they might form. I showed up 10 minutes early the next day because I didn't want to be late and give her a reason to think I wasn't serious, even though every part of me wanted to turn around and pretend none of this was happening. Lenora Harper's office was on the second floor of an old brick building, the kind of place you'd miss if you weren't looking for it. No name on the outside, just a small frosted glass door with the number 203 printed neatly in gold. I knocked once, and she opened the door herself. "Tyler," she said, not as a question. She remembered my voice. She was tall, early 50s maybe, with steel gray hair pulled back into a lone knot and eyes that looked like they didn't miss much. Her office was warm, small, filled with books and soft light. A navy couch sat across from her desk, and she gestured for me to sit without saying more. I didn't. I stayed standing, my hands in my jacket pockets. "I need to know what Matt told you," I said. She sat down across from me, folding her hands. "That depends. What are you ready to hear?" "Everything," I said, too fast. "Anything. He didn't want you to carry his secrets," she said softly. "But he was never very good at letting go." I finally sat, heart pounding. "He had a daughter. I met her mother. He never told us." "I know," she nodded. "That's where it started. But it wasn't the whole story." "Then what is?" I asked. She studied me. "Matt wasn't just carrying the weight of a child he kept hidden. He was trying to protect someone else too. Someone he loved before Renee." I blinked. "Wait, before?" Her name was Claire. The name hit me like a loose brick. I remembered it. Barely. A girl from Matt's college days. Petite, soft-spoken, with dimples and a notebook always in hand. I met her once. She vanished soon after. What does she have to do with this? "Everything," Lenora said. "They were together for 2 years. She got pregnant. Miscarried. But what no one knew, what Matt never told even Renee, was that Claire never really recovered. She spiraled. Left town. He blamed himself." I sat still, stunned. So why was he in therapy? For guilt. For guilt, yes. But also because Claire came back. My throat dried up. "What?" "A year before Matt died. She reached out to him. Said she was struggling. That she couldn't remember parts of those years. She thought Matt might have answers." "Answers to what?" I asked. "To what happened between them." There were gaps in her memory. Gaps that didn't make sense. She believed someone had made her forget. Made her forget? I repeated. "That's not a thing." Lenora was quiet for a moment, then leaned forward. "Matt believed her. But that's not," I stopped. Because suddenly it didn't feel impossible. Not after what I'd already learned. "He said he knew someone," she continued. "Someone who once offered the kind of service." "Like memory erasing?" I said, hearing how crazy it sounded even as I said it. "He mentioned a name. A clinic. Said it had shut down, but there were still people who knew how to do it." "That's not real," I said again, but less certain this time. Lenora didn't answer. Just let the silence stretch. "Are you saying Matt tried to help her recover her memories?" "He was trying," she said. "But he was scared of what they'd find." "And what did they find?" I asked, almost whispering. "That's what I don't know," she said. "He stopped coming to sessions the week before he died. Sent me one last message. Said he was going to tell the truth to everyone. Said he was ready." "Ready for what?" "To give up the life he built on silence." I stared at her. "Do you still have that message?" She reached into a folder on her desk and handed me a printout. It was short. Just 4 lines. I read them aloud. "I think I found the missing pieces. I'm telling her tomorrow. Then I'll talk to my brother. I want him to know who I really was." I looked up at her. "Do you know who he was?" She nodded. "He was a man trying to do the right thing too late. And hoping it still counted." I left her office with the page folded in my back pocket and my mind in 1,000 shards. My brother had been trying to untangle a web of love, loss, guilt, and whatever had happened to Claire. A woman I barely remembered, whose story had been erased in more ways than one. I didn't know where to go next, but I knew I had to find her. Claire, the missing thread, the one person who might still be holding the final truth. I spent the next 2 days searching for Claire like my life depended on it, which in some twisted way, it probably did, because every lead I chased felt like it was pulling me closer to a version of Matt I'd never met, and further from the one I thought I knew. I started with old photos, college yearbooks, tagged Facebook albums, dusty group pictures where Matt's arm was draped around a dark-haired girl with hesitant eyes. Claire H. That was all I had. Just an initial. But it was enough. A few clicks, some deep scrolling through alumni pages, and finally, there she was, Claire Hanley. Now living 2 towns over, working at a nonprofit that helped survivors of domestic trauma. I stared at the photo on the staff page. She looked older, of course. Thinner, maybe. Her smile was cautious, almost practiced, but her eyes, that soft, watchful way she looked at the camera, were exactly how I remembered. I called the number on the website. A receptionist answered. I gave my name. Asked if I could leave a message. It's personal, I said. Family related. My voice cracked a little. I didn't expect to hear back. But the next morning, I woke up to a voicemail. Hi, Tyler. This is Claire. I wasn't sure if I should call, but something in your voice. Anyway, I'm around this afternoon if you want to talk. I work near the riverfront. There's a little coffee place on 8th. I'll be there at 2. I got there by 1:45, palms sweating, heart pounding like a drum. What do you even say to someone who might hold the last puzzle piece of your brother's life? She arrived exactly at 2, in a gray coat and black boots, her hair pulled into a loose bun. She looked both guarded and curious, like someone who was used to being cautious, but couldn't help wondering. Hi, she said softly, sliding into the seat across from me. Hi, I replied. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she glanced at the table, then back up at me. You said it was about Matt. I nodded, pulling the folded paper from my pocket. He mentioned you in a message. Right before he died. She didn't flinch, but her expression tightened. What did he say? I placed the paper between us. That he was going to tell you something. That he found the missing pieces. Claire stared at it, eyes scanning the words like she was trying to will them to change. He never did, she said quietly. He said he would, but then he disappeared. Can you tell me what he was trying to help you remember? I asked. She looked away, then out the window for a long time. There's a night I can't recall. From years ago. I know it happened. I remember the lead up, the hours before. But then it's just gone. A blank stretch from about 8 p.m. to maybe 2 in the morning. No drinking. No trauma I'm aware of. Just erased. You said he knew someone who could help. He mentioned a place. Once. A clinic. But he never gave me the name. Only that it was shut down. That someone from there had stayed in contact with him. Someone who knew how to undo it. She met my eyes. You think I'm crazy? I shook my head. No, not anymore. Claire let out a slow breath. Matt always said some things are buried on purpose. That forgetting can be an act of survival. But he also believed the truth matters. Even if it breaks things. Did he tell you what happened that night? She paused. No, but he said he'd seen the footage. Footage? There was a camera. That night. Someone was filming. He said he'd gotten it from someone he used to know. And that once he watched it, he couldn't stop seeing it. Do you know where that footage is? No. He kept it hidden. Said he'd bring it when he was ready. We sat in silence for a beat. The hum of espresso machines and the clink of coffee cups filled the space between us. Then Claire reached into her purse and pulled out a small, worn envelope. He sent me this. A week before he died. She slid it across the table. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a photo, grainy, low light, but unmistakably of Claire and Matt standing together. They looked serious. She was clutching a notebook. He had a hard drive in his hand. On the back, in Matt's handwriting, were just 3 words. You deserve truth. My hands trembled. Did he ever say what was on it? Claire shook her head. Only that it showed everything. The words showed everything, echoed in my brain like a riddle with no key. We sat there in the cafe for a while longer, both of us staring at the photo like it might blink or breathe or whisper a clue. Claire looked tired now, like the weight of remembering, or almost remembering, had finally caught up with her. He was different that day, she said finally, voice barely above the hum of background music. Like something had clicked into place. He wasn't scared anymore. He looked clear. I nodded slowly, folding the photo back into the envelope and sliding it carefully into my jacket pocket. Do you think he gave the hard drive to anyone? Claire shrugged. If he did, it wasn't me. And I've never seen it since. The rest of our conversation felt like drifting debris, bits of memory, half-explained feelings, words left unsaid. By the time we stood to leave, I felt no closer to clarity, and yet I knew I'd crossed some invisible threshold. There was no going back. I couldn't unknow what I knew now. She gripped my arm gently before walking away. If you find it, the footage, I want to see it. Even if it hurts. I will, I promised. If it's out there, I'll find it. That night, I went home and pulled out Matt's old laptop. It was ancient by tech standards, its surface covered in stickers and scratches. I'd never really used it after he passed. It felt too personal, too sacred. But now it might be the only place left with answers. It took me 3 tries to guess the password, his favorite band, and the year he got his first guitar. Once I was in, the screen flickered awake with a background photo of us at the lake, both sunburned and smiling. I dug through the folders. Music, old photos, writing projects, downloads. I opened everything, clicked every suspicious file, searched every keyword I could think of: Claire, video, truth, drive. Nothing. Until I opened the trash folder. There, at the very bottom, was a file called rehearsal_cut.mp4. I stared at it. Then I opened it. The video started with static. Then a dark room. A couch. A woman seated with her hands in her lap, barely visible in the dim lighting. Claire. She looked straight ahead, not at the camera, and whispered, "Are you sure this is okay?" A voice, Matt's off camera, calm and quiet. "It's just for you. You can erase it afterward. Say whatever you need to say." Claire nodded, exhaled, and then she began to speak. Claire's voice in the video was soft, shaky, like someone climbing a staircase in the dark. "I don't remember the night," she said, staring just past the camera. "But I remember waking up. My clothes were folded neatly on a chair. My phone was missing, and I had this headache, like something had been pulled out of my skull." She paused, hands clasped tightly. "I asked Matt if we fought, if something happened. He said no, but he wouldn't meet my eyes." She looked down, biting her lip. "He said there were things I didn't want to remember, that I'd asked to forget." She blinked hard. "But I never would have asked that." The camera tilted slightly, catching a glimpse of Matt's foot as he stepped back. Claire looked directly into the lens for the first time. "If someone did that to me, if someone made me forget, I want to know who." Her voice hardened. "I want to know why." Then the screen cut to black. That was it. No timestamp. No explanation. Just that single clip. But it felt like a door swinging open to something none of us were supposed to see. I sat frozen in front of the screen for a long time. My brother had filmed this, had saved it, deleted it, and somehow it survived in digital limbo. Why delete it at all? Was he protecting her or hiding something else? I transferred the file to a USB drive and slipped it into my pocket. Then I reopened Matt's email and searched again for anything connected to that moment, video, memory, even keywords from Claire's story. There, buried in his sent folder, was a draft. Never delivered. Subject line, "For Tyler, if I don't get to say this." My chest tightened. I opened it. "Ty, if you're reading this, I guess I never got the chance to explain everything. Maybe I was too late. I hope I'm not. I hope I'm just being paranoid. But if something happens, go to Lynn. Go to Claire. And find the drive. It's not just about me anymore. Someone paid for silence. Don't let them keep it. You deserve the truth too." The message ended without a sign-off. Paid for silence? Who? I sat back, staring at the screen, the puzzle pieces finally showing their edges. This wasn't just about memory loss or a lost relationship. Matt had stumbled into something bigger, something that made him feel unsafe. I opened a new tab, typed in the name of the place Lenora mentioned during our meeting, the clinic that supposedly shut down. And there it was, in an archived web capture from 6 years ago. Remind Therapeutics, memory is medicine. And below that, a list of contacts. Most were dead links. Except one. A woman's name I hadn't seen before. Maren Kessler, client liaison. I clicked. A new page opened. One phrase sat at the center of the screen. "Some things are meant to be forgotten." I stared at the screen like it might blink first. "Some things are meant to be forgotten." It was such a calm, polished sentence, like a slogan for tea or sleep aids, but now it read like a warning. I copied the name, Maren Kessler. Then I searched every corner of the internet I could find: old business listings, archived interviews, LinkedIn profiles, obscure medical forums. Most of the results were stale or broken, but one pinged. A Cash News article from 2018, Startup Spotlight, Maren Kessler and the Rise of Ethical Memory Management. It featured a photo of her sharp jawline, dark blazer, the kind of smile that makes you want to trust her even though your gut tells you not to. In the article, she described Remind Therapeutics as a place for healing, not deletion. We don't erase, we reframe. That might have sounded reasonable if I hadn't seen what Claire was still carrying, an empty night, and the scar of something she wasn't allowed to remember. I called the number listed in the article, fully expecting it to be disconnected. It rang twice. Then someone picked up. "This is Maren." Her voice was cool, efficient, like she hadn't aged a day since that article. I swallowed. "Hi. You don't know me. My name is Tyler Collins. I'm Matt's brother." Silence. "Matt Collins," I repeated. "He was your client, wasn't he?" Another pause. "That name doesn't mean anything to me," she said. Too quickly. "Are you sure?" I said. "Because I found the footage. The one he filmed of Claire." Longer pause. "You need to stop calling this number." "Wait," click. She hung up. I stared at my phone. Cold prickled up my neck. It wasn't just that she knew Matt. It was the fact that she'd panicked. People don't hang up like that unless they have something to hide. I texted Claire immediately. Told her what happened. Her response came fast. "Meet me now." 30 minutes later, we were sitting in her car behind a closed gas station. I played the call on speaker. She stared straight ahead, gripping the wheel. "I remember that name," she said after it ended. "Maren. Matt mentioned her once. Said she used to work in something called Discrete Therapeutics. He hated that term. Do you think she made you forget?" Claire didn't answer right away. Maybe not directly, but she knows who did. I bet everything on that. We sat there in tense silence until Claire turned toward me. We have to find her. How? She won't tell you anything. But maybe she'd tell someone else. Like who? Like the daughter of someone who might have used her services. Her eyes locked onto mine. You mean your daughter? Matt's daughter, she corrected. And mine. If she knows about her, if she thinks the next generation is involved, maybe she'll make a mistake. I leaned back in my seat. So we bait her? We let her think someone's remembering. We crafted the plan in Claire's living room. 2 mugs of untouched tea on the table and a notebook between us filled with names, arrows, and what-ifs. It felt like something out of a movie, only the stakes weren't fiction, and the people involved weren't characters. We let Marin believe the memory suppression didn't stick, Claire said, tapping the page. That someone is remembering details they shouldn't. But who? I asked. You? Me? It has to be believable. She looked at me with a calm I didn't trust. We tell her the child remembers. You mean, your daughter? But she's what, 6? Almost 7, Claire said quietly. And she's smart. Smarter than she lets on. We don't have to lie. We just let her name surface. I didn't love it. Bringing a kid into this, even indirectly, made my skin crawl. But Marin already knew too much, and if she felt the walls tightening, she might slip. Okay, I said. So we send a message. Something vague. Just enough to make her nervous. We set up a new email account. Sent a single sentence to the contact listed on the old Remind archive. My daughter remembers the White Room. That was it. We didn't sign it. We didn't follow up. We just waited. The reply came less than 6 hours later. Who is this? What do you want? Claire and I stared at the screen. Now we know she's scared, I said. And scared people make mistakes. We asked for a meeting, Claire said. Neutral location. No threats. And if she agrees? Claire's eyes didn't blink. Then we record everything. We chose a park downtown. Public enough to keep things civil. Claire offered to meet Marin alone. Said she'd been through worse, that she'd know how to steer the conversation. I didn't like it, but I agreed. I wired her with a mic tucked into her jacket collar and sat in a parked car a block away, listening through headphones. At 3:03 p.m., Marin arrived. Black coat, sunglasses, a satchel slung over her shoulder. Her posture was stiff, defensive. She didn't sit, just hovered near the bench as Claire stayed calm and still. Who are you? Marin asked. You know who I am, Claire replied. Matt's daughter remembers. That's impossible, Marin snapped. It wasn't her memory. Claire paused, then said evenly, whose was it? Then, there was silence. My fingers curled around the steering wheel. Marin lowered her sunglasses just enough to look Claire directly in the eye. You don't know what you're asking. That night was sealed for a reason. You sealed it, Claire said. I want to know why. Marin exhaled sharply. It wasn't just you. There were others. And if this unravels, it's not just your life that falls apart. Tell me anyway. Another pause. Then Marin said something that made my heart drop. Your memory wasn't erased, Claire. It was transferred. Transferred. The word echoed in my headphones like a malfunctioning alarm, sharp and impossible to ignore. Claire sat still on the bench, but I could see her knuckles whitening around the edge of her coat. What do you mean transferred? She asked slowly. Marin took a half step back. There's a protocol we developed, experimental. You weren't our first. You were just the first we regretted. Her voice cracked slightly. Matt begged us to reverse it. Said you didn't consent fully. He tried to get the files back. That's why she trailed off. Claire stayed composed. Where did the memory go? Marin looked around the park like someone might be watching. It was stored in a host. Temporarily. A tether. Someone close enough, emotionally, for the imprint to hold. Claire blinked. Matt. Yes. My lungs stopped working. Claire's erased memory, the night she lost ours, had been moved. Hidden in my brother. Claire's voice dropped. So he carried what I couldn't? Marin nodded. It was supposed to be temporary, but he wouldn't give it back. He said if anyone had to live with it, it should be him. Claire exhaled a breath I didn't know she was holding. And then he died. Marin looked away, and the memory went with him. Or so we thought. Claire straightened. Then you got my email. About my daughter. Marin hesitated. If the memory left Matt, it had to go somewhere familiar. Familiar blood. Claire's hands were shaking now. My daughter dreams of a white room. A woman crying. A silver table. She drew it. Said she's never been there. Marin went pale. Then it didn't die with Matt. Claire leaned forward. So you'll help us recover it? Marin stared at her, defeated. I'll try, but you won't like what you find. We met Marin again 2 days later, this time in a quiet office above an empty yoga studio she claimed was neutral ground. Claire brought the drawing, her daughter's pale crayon lines forming a too precise room, a silver table, a woman's silhouette without a face. Marin took one look at it and whispered, It's real. She pulled out a small black device from her bag, no bigger than a matchbox. "This was never meant to leave the lab," she said, fingers trembling slightly. "It's a recall tool. Not perfect. But if the memory lives in her..." Claire stiffened. "She's just a child. We don't extract anything," Marin replied quickly. "We just mirror it. Bring the trace forward. Let the image complete itself. That's all." I didn't like it, but I also couldn't ignore what we'd come this far to uncover. So we waited until Claire's daughter, Lena, was asleep that night, and Marin placed the device gently on the nightstand. She adjusted the small dial. No interference. No pain. If the memory is active, the system will pick it up. The room fell silent. A faint blue pulse lit the edges of the device. A few seconds passed. Then the pulse turned steady. Marin froze. "It's in there," she whispered. "A full imprint." Claire swallowed hard. "Can we see it?" Marin hesitated, then pressed a button. A small projection bloomed above the device, a flickering, grainy image. A room. Metal walls. A woman sitting across from Claire. Crying. Her voice distorted. Then Matt's voice, clear. "She doesn't need to carry this. Give it to me." Claire reached out toward the image, but it vanished. "That's all it will show," Marin said. "The rest lives in her dreams. It will come piece by piece." Claire knelt beside her sleeping daughter, brushing hair from her forehead. "She doesn't even know what she's remembering. But she will," Marin said quietly. "And when she does, the truth will finally have a witness." The memory didn't come all at once. It arrived in fragments, in Lena's sleep talk and morning drawings, in questions too mature for her age. "Why was the lady crying, Mommy?" she asked one morning. "Did Daddy make her sad?" Claire's hand shook every time Lena said Daddy, because even though Matt had died before Lena could form real memories of him, something deep inside her had remembered him anyway. Remembered more than just his face. We met Marin one last time in a diner off the highway, early morning light streaking the windows. She looked older than she had the first time, maybe because the weight of what she'd hidden was no longer safely buried. She placed a flash drive on the table between us. "This is the original," she said. "The uncut footage. The night Claire forgot. Neither of us reached for it. What happens if we watch it?" I asked. Marin stirred her coffee. "You'll see the truth. But it may not give you peace." Claire spoke without looking up. "The truth isn't for peace. It's for closure. We took the drive. We didn't watch it that day. We waited until Lena was asleep and the house was quiet. Claire and I sat on opposite sides of the couch, the laptop between us. We pressed play. The footage showed Claire in a white room. She was seated across from a man in a dark jacket, someone neither of us recognized. He was crying. "You don't have to carry this," he said. "Let us take it." Claire nodded, confused. Matt appeared in the doorway, angry, shouting something muffled. Then came the moment. Claire signing a form. The man injecting something into her arm. Her head falling forward. Matt lunging, too late. The screen went black. Claire closed the laptop. No tears. Just a long breath. "He tried to stop it," she said. "He did everything he could." I nodded. "And then he carried it. Until it killed him." We buried a copy of the drive that night. In a park Matt used to love. Lena never saw the footage. But she drew something new the next morning. A man with a guitar and a little girl holding his hand. Beneath it, she wrote, "My daddy kept me safe."